and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 171, and today's date is September 24th, 2013. And the title of this episode is Emergency Alert. Please stand by. And what we're seeing around the world right now is everyone is looking at Kenya. The terrorist activity has come to an end, and we are getting information that these terrorists are made up of many different people from different countries. There are people there from the United States, from England, and they are a link to the al-Qaeda terrorism group, the same group that has been giving the United States warnings that there will be some type of an event coming soon. And they are definitely making the propaganda. This seems like this is the prequel to the main event that will be coming very, very soon, and we are going to see something happen because the central bankers know they need to get the war started. And what we're seeing is that the U.S. government is making it very difficult for Syria, Russia, to actually have this deal go through, because they want the option to strike from the UN Security Council. And if they don't get it, they don't like the deal. And they're doing everything to interrupt what is happening, because what they really want is to strike Assad and get him out of there. Why? Why do they want this? They want this because they understand that they need to put the dollar back into the country, have all the natural resources be used as the reserve currency, set up a central private Western bank, and then move into Iran. This has been their plan from the beginning, and they know this. This is why they will not give up. Doesn't matter what Syria does, doesn't matter what Russia does, they will never be satisfied with any of it, because they want this war to get started. And the only way to do this is to bring an event to the United States right in front of the American people and have it bloody, horrific, something unimaginable, just like 9/11, and have the people go into shock and then beg President Obama for war. And Congress will listen to the people because they will be shocked, and they will say, go ahead, we need to get this done, and this is what's going to happen. So in the next couple of weeks, I believe something major is going to happen. And what has been happening in Kenya is a prequel to what is definitely going to happen here in the U.S. But before we discuss all of that, let's go over the economic collapse news. And in Venezuela, they are having price control problems, and right now the government is taking over the toilet paper factory. And it sounds funny, but what's happening is there are many shortages, ranging from bathroom tissue, milk, and things like that, and people can't get their supplies. It's the same thing that most likely will happen here in the U.S. and in other countries when things get out of hand. Hyperinflation hits, power grid gets hit, and everything goes dark. An event happens where martial law is declared. Any of these situations could happen, and we see Venezuela, people who are not stocked up with this type of stuff are having problems getting it. And what we're seeing now is they are continually using the propaganda to tell us that the economy is still doing well and getting better, because the government officials do not want anyone to realize what is really happening. It's almost like the lead up to 2008, when the Fed came out and said, at this time we're not forecasting a recession. And everything was completely falling apart. Real estate was falling apart. Companies needed bailouts. There were so many different things happening in that summer of 2008 that no one really knew what was deep down happening until it was too late. Here, there are so many bubbles forming. Let's just back up for 1 second. We realize today that there are more people that have lost their homes, that are in foreclosure. We realize there are more people unemployed and underemployed. We realize that retail sales are declining. We realize that the Fed is printing $85 billion a month. We realize that all the figures and everything that they've been telling us, GDP, inflation, unemployment, all have been changed. And what they're trying to tell us is that things are okay and we are recovering. They've pumped the stock market up to all-time highs. And if you realize this, every time there was a crash, the stock market reached all-time highs. Great Depression.com, 2008, right now. We are going through the same exact thing. Now, Spain is out there continuing with its propaganda, saying that everything looks good, everything's getting better. I know we have double-digit unemployment, and our GDP, our Spanish public debt is far above normal, and it's 92.6% of GDP. I understand that, but I really see great things happening, and it looks like everything's going to be okay. And you have to remember that the unemployment rate is the second highest in Europe after Greece. But, Spain is saying that everything is looking good and they're coming out of the recession. It's almost like here in the U.S., we are about to embark on this great recovery, and everything looks great, and the Fed is going to taper as soon as the unemployment comes down. And so we have to do a little manipulating just to get those numbers down. But, it all looks good, but it's a complete illusion. But they do not want people to catch on. They keep gold suppressed. With gold suppressed, people don't realize that something is wrong. The stock market going higher. People say, oh, okay, look, the stock market's going higher. Things must be okay. Companies must be doing well. They don't realize what is actually happening and what the Fed and the central bankers are waiting for. They are waiting for the invasion of Syria and Iran. And this is what they are waiting for. And this is what's going to begin the collapse of the dollar, because they need it to be blamed on another country. And they realize, and the central banks of central banks said that the Fed is blowing bubbles and they need to cut back. And they understand this, and the Fed ignored it, and they kept on printing because they know that the economy, it makes no difference because it's an illusion. They control all the numbers. They know if they wanted to, they could just lower the unemployment where they needed it because it's fake right now. It's not real. And they realize what is happening. And this is why they are waiting for this event. And right now, they are building up for it. Now, we look at Volkswagen right now, and Volkswagen is saying that it's warning workers at its biggest factory it might introduce cost-cutting measures in the months ahead to counter the impact of stalling sales. Volkswagen is not doing well. In my previous reports, I mentioned some other auto manufacturers in Germany that are not doing well, and sales are starting to decline. And now we are seeing consumer confidence is dropping, and it drops most in 6 months to a 4-month low, and I can't imagine why. Let's see, if we look at the real calculation of unemployment, which was changed back in 1994, we see unemployment reaching 23%. And this kind of matches with the rest of Europe. Spain, Cyprus, Greece, Portugal, France, they're all in double-digit unemployment, and here in America it's around 23%. But again, they changed the calculation, so it's really 7.3%, which they broadcast to the rest of the American people, and all of those people believe that's what the unemployment rate is, but it is a complete illusion. They do not count those people that fall off, that can no longer find work because there is no work. So they do not count those people. Those people who are part-time workers, who came from a full-time job, they count those as having a job. So all of this is completely fake, and some of the corporate media is starting to pick up on it and reporting that that maybe we should count the people who are no longer working. And yes, we should. Just because you can't find work doesn't mean that you don't want work. And we also see that real estate, and I've discussed this many, many, many times, that real estate is not doing as well as they all say it is. Mortgage applications are declining. The foot traffic to new home builders is declining. Sales in home furnishing, gardening for homes is declining. Major mortgage companies, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America, 1-800 East Coast, JP Morgan, they are laying off thousands of people and letting people go in the mortgage area. And we understand that some places this has not hit. People are still seeing record high of real estate prices. Some places are seeing sales start to decline, and they don't understand this. But we saw the same thing during 2007, 2008. There were some places, and I said this before, but those people who haven't heard it, and I'll just repeat it. I lived in New York. I had a sister-in-law who still lives in Florida who sold real estate. I was in New York trying to sell my house. Traffic came to a complete and utter standstill. There was no one coming to look at homes anymore. Boom, that was it. Doesn't matter how big your ad was in the paper. Doesn't matter what realtor you looked at. Didn't matter what price you set it at. Nobody was coming. Spoke to my sister-in-law down in Florida. Had no clue what I was talking about. Real estate was booming. Things were selling. Things were popping. Things were happening. But guess what? 6 to 8 months later, came to a screeching halt in Florida. The same thing is happening right now. And the U.S. government, again, President Obama went out and campaigned and told everyone how great housing is and how it's going up. And he was in Arizona where it was the biggest increase. And of course, that's where he was, campaigning. But around the country, there are many places that were being hit first. And they're always reporting back, August, back in July. And this is when real estate was doing well. We're coming out of the summer months now. Real estate rates are increasing. We're coming into the winter months. And guess what? Mortgage applications have been declining. Sales will follow. Yes, we still have sales that are pending, and they'll still count those. But as months go by, all of a sudden, things will start to dry up. And we still have to remember the Fed is still purchasing $40 to $45 billion a month of toxic real estate from the banks. They haven't stopped. So just imagine how much of this toxic real estate there is. And we also have to remember, if they're purchasing this much of the toxic real estate, think about all of those people who cannot purchase a home right now because they either don't have a job or underemployed or just don't have the credit now to purchase a home. And all of that real estate that they're purchasing on the bank's books, those are all the people that can't buy homes. We understand that youth unemployment is very high. It's around 16% or so they're reporting. And guess what? If those youths who are getting jobs and trying to make money to buy a house can't find jobs or are working part-time or still living with their parents, who's buying these homes? The hedge funds. They're buying these homes, and most of the houses are being bought in cash, and they're buying multifamily homes, and they are renting them out. But guess what? They are dumping them now because they realize the housing bubble is coming to an end, and they want to get out ahead of time. Now, moving on here. John Kerry is going to sign the UN Arms Treaty, despite what the senators want. But don't worry, it doesn't mean that it's passed. The senators have to ratify it. They have to vote on the UN Arms Treaty. And what they're going to do after he signs it, they're going to, and you have to remember, I've always said this in the past, the UN Arms Treaty and the gun bill are sitting there and pending in the Senate. We just had this naval mass shooting. They're going to use this, plus all the other mass shootings, to get this passed. And last time the senators voted it down, and it was a 53 to 46 vote. And this time they are going to sign it, make their case. President Obama has already signed the executive orders to support the gun bill and the UN Arms Treaty, and we will have to see what happens, because they know they want this done, because they want these laws in place for the collapse, because they believe in their minds and in the minds of Americans who don't understand what's really going on here, that the Second Amendment nullifies and all of these laws are void. But most people believe all the laws that they create are the laws of the land. But I hate to say it, the Constitution is the law of the land, and it overrides everything that they do. And once the people stand up and realize this, because we have to remember, these government officials signed a contract. The contract is the Constitution, that they abide by these laws. We, the people, control all of these rights that we have, because they're inherent to us. So if they do not follow these laws that we've given them, they no longer can serve us, and they are removed from their position. And all these limits that they put on guns are null and void, according to Mulberry versus Madison, which I've had on many, many reports, which says any law that's repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. And again, we have to remember that, what they've been doing, and not just with the Second Amendment, they've been doing this with every single Bill of Rights, or the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment. They've done it with the Patriot Act. They've done it with the NDAA. They've done it with who's going to be they're trying to get another bill passed with Dianne Feinstein and other senators trying to push, who will be a journalist who has the right to report on different situations with the freedom of speech and the freedom of press. And they are doing this to make people believe that these rights are no longer theirs. They're even going as far as to change it in textbooks, and they also have modified the amendments on the government site, and they replaced we the people to citizens, and they modified what the rights, what the amendments say on the government site. And they know they need this to get done because really they want to do away with the Constitution. Bloomberg was telling us that the Constitution is old and it's out of date, and we need to relook at this. And there are many other government officials that, and especially the central bankers, would just completely get rid of it. And this is what is happening right now. And before this total collapse happens, they want these laws passed. They want the event to start the war to happen. They want to control the internet, and they need control of everything. They have control of the money creation. They have control of the corporate media, and the last control that they need for the flow of information is the internet, because it really bothers them that people are reporting on things, and these alternative news outlets are popping up, reporting on different things, and people are swarming to them. And again, I do this, and many other people do this, and we need to get more and more people understanding what this is. So if you people on YouTube like my stuff, give it a Facebook like. Give it a like on YouTube. If you're on the x22report.com site, give it a Facebook like. Tweet about it. Let people know what's going on. Because the more people that know, the more powerful we the people are. Okay, now, NATO is creating this new alliance asset for collecting strategic intelligence, the Alliance Ground Surveillance System. It's a sophisticated radar capable of monitoring the situation on the ground from high overhead, including the movement of objects of interest such as military vehicles. And what's happening here is it's It's called the Global Hawk Block 40 air vehicles, which will house the multi-platform radar technology, and this will fly around 60,000 feet in the air above air traffic control. It can stay in the air and communicate between all the systems and report what's going on in the ground over Europe, over the United States, and they are now keeping an eye on everything because they understand that a war is going to break out. They understand that World War III is going to happen. So all the NATO nations are getting together and preparing for this. And we see this happening around the world. We see the United States setting up bases which encircles China. We see Japan building the largest warship since World War II, trying to change their constitution from being a pacifist nation to allowing them to attack and strike if they need. They are getting a new radar system, the X radar system, to detect missile launches. We understand that there are many drills happening. The United States is building a missile launch center in Romania and on the east coast of the U.S. The U.S. and Japan are having live fire drills on the island called Pagan, and we see many things happening. We see the Russian fleet in the Mediterranean. There are 11 vessels there. We see the U.S. fleet in the Mediterranean. None of them have left. They're all there. They're all waiting because they understand that something will definitely happen, and they understand that this deal with Russia, Syria, and the U.S. is really not going to succeed because the central bankers do not want it to succeed. They do not want peace. They do not want this thing to go away because they've planned this for a long time. They invaded all those countries, Lebanon, Libya, Iraq, Yemen, to put all these countries back on the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency and keep them there in force. And the last two are Syria and Iran. They understand that the dollar is on its last leg, and they believe if they can get in there, control their natural resources, and put the U.S. dollar back in there and set up a private central western bank, they will be able to control this and eventually, after the war, put everyone back on the Bretton Woods system that they have and use the natural resources as the collateral, as the backing for the new currency, and start the system all over again. And this is why they will never, ever give up. They do not want peace. So Russia right now understands this. They understand World War III is going to happen. They understand no matter what they do and what they try, they are just putting off what is inevitable. And Russia right now, their defense minister has urged defense firms to speed up work to develop combat drones right now. And they want to produce these much quicker than they are because they understand what is happening. And Russia fears U.S. will still use force in Syria. Russia is concerned that talks with the United States and Syria are not going very smoothly and says the chemical weapons deal may have only delayed U.S. military action. Unfortunately, it's necessary to note that in contacts with Americans, things are not going smoothly, and they are not quite going in the direction they should, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei said in a parliament on Tuesday. And we realize this, that the central bankers and the U.S. never wanted peace. They didn't want this. They didn't want this. The only thing that was stopping them at this point was that the U.S., the American people, and the Congress, the polls were showing that they did not want war. It was so low that there was nothing for them to do. So what they're going to do is they're going to change things around. They've been planning. It's in the works. We know that something's going to happen. Russia and Syria are abiding by everything they want. The U.S. doesn't seem satisfied in what they're giving them. Russia is now having the UN Security Council come back in to inspect the areas, and they are due to arrive on Wednesday, September 25th, to inspect the area, and they are going to prove that Assad had nothing to do with this um, attack on August 21st. And the U.S. understands what is happening here, and they're going to do anything and everything to get this war started before this report comes out, because their whole thing is that they want Assad removed, and that's what they continually say. They are building the propaganda about Iran having nuclear weapons, about Iran creating chemical weapons, about al-Qaeda creating and getting their hands on chemical weapons, about the Syrian Electronic Army and al-Qasim, which is Iran, both combining forces to attack the U.S. So they are building the case that something is going to happen. And the UN chief urges the world to stop arming the Syrian rebel forces, to stop the bloodshed, because military victory is an illusion. The only answer is a political settlement, and we know this is not going to happen. They understand that the U.S. is funneling, that these are the paid mercenaries creating this civil war. They all understand what is happening. All these countries know what they're up to. They understand that war, not just a regional war, a world war will break out once this gets started, because Russia will get involved. Russia doesn't have their fleet there just to say, hey, how you doing? They have their fleet there, and they keep adding ships because they understand that they're trying to push this off as far as they can, but eventually something will happen that they will not be able to control anymore, and war will break out. And Obama, he's out there saying, has repeated his call for military action against Syria, once again accusing the Syrian government of using chemical weapons. And he went on to say the United States of America is prepared to use all elements of power, including military force, to secure those core interests in the region. We will confront external aggression against our allies and partners as we did in the Gulf War. And he believes that since Assad has used these chemical weapons on his own people, and nobody knows where these numbers came from, who killed 1,400 people, including children, that he should be removed from government. And this is their end game, is to get him out and put in a puppet regime that will support the U.S. dollar. Now, there was a report out there saying that there could be destructive attacks on oil and gas industry, and it's a wake-up call. And they're saying more so than a cyber attack on the oil and gas industry, they're very worried about physical attacks against the energy sector. And this person went on to say that physical attacks against the energy sector are the biggest worries today. There's a greater opportunity for cyber attack than there was 4 or 5 years ago. The physical attack threat is constant, he says. The ability to cause long-term catastrophic damage is far greater from a physical perspective. And a combination of a physical and a digital attack on a government-owned oil company could have long-lasting effects. There could be shortages. People will not be able to heat their homes, fill up their cars. The supply chains will break down, and people will not be able to. There'll be many, many shortages, and people will not be able to get the energy and the fuel that they need to survive. And we understand this. We understand that something is going to happen. Down in Kenya, the Kenyan foreign minister confirms that the mall attack was by al-Qaeda, and this was completely orchestrated to show that al-Qaeda has a far reach and has the ability to do these things. Right now in America, American malls are on alert for any type of al-Qaeda attacks or copycat type of attacks, which is building up the fear that al-Qaeda could be here any second. For most of the American people, they're putting all the largest malls on alert, saying that, we just want to make sure, and this is the propaganda to build the fear that something is going to happen. Representative Peter King is out there saying that we must stay on the offensive, and he's saying that the U.S. is almost inviting these terror attacks. These terrorists, in many ways, are more sophisticated and more of a threat than they were before 9/11. We've been lucky and we've been good, and sooner or later, our luck is going to run out. We have to stay on the offensive. He offered, this is the example he gave. The New York Police Department monitoring Muslims communities. They should continue to monitor them where you suspect the terrorists might come from, to find out who's purchasing explosive type materials from local stores, to find out if people are gathering, to find out if somebody has arrived from overseas, and to see what they're doing. So we need more monitoring, more information coming in. But what's funny is, and I was thinking about this, they had all this technology spying on everywhere. They gave us this huge alert about something happening, terrorist chatter in the Middle East, and guess what? They had no idea this was happening in Kenya. So basically, this whole system that they have set up doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. They gave us this false, ridiculous information that there's going to be a terrorist attack, which they staged and locked down the Middle East, but they had no idea that it was happening in Kenya? Of course they didn't. It was a false flag. They weren't going to tell you about that. Every time something happened, like the Boston Marathon and things like that, these are all the false flags. They're never going to tell you about this. All the systems they have in place have never stopped anything. They've never done anything. They've never stopped anything, because we understand they are not set up to do this. They are set up to spy on American people. Now, Lindsey Graham is out there warning that this is the perfect storm brewing for this country to get hit. Terrorists now are being trained in our own backyard. We are sending the wrong signals to the rest of the world, and al-Qaeda is growing, and they are more advanced than ever, and there are lone wolves roaming around the United States that we cannot trace, and they are primed to hit someplace in the U.S. And there was a report here saying that the al-Qaeda's Nairobi Mall strike was more sophisticated than 9/11. And I'll just read what this says. Al-Qaeda's attack on the Westgate shopping mall was prepared in 2 years of intelligence gathering, detailed planning, and multinational recruitment spreading over 4 continents: North America, Europe, Africa, and Middle East. This complex, sophisticated, and labor-intensive terrorism operation was an eye-opener, showing how far al-Qaeda had upgraded its capabilities since September 11, 2001. September 1. Yet no Western counterterrorism agencies saw it coming. And they're trying to let us know that they're so advanced now that all our technology and spying on them is not working. And they have the ability to strike in the U.S. at any second. And we understand there are many things happening now. There are numerous FBI warnings about a cyber attack. There is a 1,000-bank cyber drill happening in October. A set of, and I put it on the side of potential terrorist attacks on the X-22 report site, and we understand that this is a drill. We understand that al-Qaeda gave a warning. We understand FEMA Region 3 is stocking up and supplying, and that covers the D.C., Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland area. And what else is interesting, and I know this happens every year, but I remembered that the Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill is set for October 17th. And what they do is, the drop, cover, and hold on, and it's for earthquakes on the East Coast, and it just so happens to be, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and they're having this on October 17th, and I'm thinking to myself, and ever since I heard about this ridiculous earthquake drill on the East Coast for a major earthquake, do you think they've been training all these people for the last, 2-3 years now for this event coming up? It's just strange that they're having it now again in October. and it's in the same FEMA Region 3, and I know it goes into FEMA Region 4, but it's in the same basic area. So what do we have here? We have a cyber drill of 1,000 banks in October. We have the Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill for October 17th. We have this trucker strike, which is happening in October. We have al-Qaeda warning that they're going to hit someplace. There's nuclear weapons being moved without paperwork. FEMA Region 3 is stocking up on supplies, and there's a warning from a senator. All of these things are fitting now into place that something is going to happen. We had this event happen in Kenya, and our government officials are letting us know that the al-Qaeda reach is far-reaching, more sophisticated, and they can avoid our intelligence platforms that spy on them to know where they are. And they keep telling us that they are very hard to track now because they've broken up into lone wolf groups. This is a complete setup for something big to happen. The United States is making it very difficult with this chemical weapon deal with Russia and Syria. They need something. They need something. We just had a naval mass shooting to get the UN Arms Treaty passed and the gun bill passed. All of this, when you start putting it together, is building up for something big. And it seems like something big will happen. And I just want to go over so we are all prepared and we are ready for what is coming. And there was a great article and about this, why you need to be ready for a total grid failure. And I believe they are going to hit parts of the grid. I believe there's going to be some type of horrific event take place. It could be coupled with a cyber attack on banking systems, so they can bring this all together and show a collapse happening, show that we were attacked so we can get the war started. And I believe all of this is going to happen, and there are certain things that I believe that everyone needs to do, and especially we're coming into the fall, winter months, so those people who are not living in the warmer climates, especially up in the Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, those type of areas, even on the West Coast, up in the northern area, winter is coming. So you want to make sure you have some type of propane heater or oil heater standing by, just in case the grid goes out and we have no power and things like that. You also have to make sure that you have enough drinking water, sanitation supplies, medicine. Make sure you have some type of biodegradable supplies to break down waste in your toilet. Make sure you fill up jugs, not of drinking water, but water that you can use to fill up your toilet so they can flush, if that is possible, depending where you are. Make sure you have solar lights. Make sure you have candles, kerosene lamps, a good working flashlight. Stock up on batteries. Make sure you have, I personally have a solar charger that will charge batteries. I also have solar lanterns that will recharge with the light, and there's also a crank on it. I also have a portable radio that has a crank on there. If the batteries run out, there's also a light on that. Make sure you have tools, supplies, matches. If camping lanterns are good. Make sure you have a manual can opener. Make sure you have pliers, screwdrivers, hammers, duct tape, crazy glue, bandages, Neosporin. If you have medical conditions, make sure you have, if you're a diabetic, make sure you have insulin. If you have heart problems, make sure you have extra heart medication. Any other type of medication that you need, make sure you have it. And I would make sure that you have all of these things, and make sure, very important, I would stock up on quite a bit of food and water. Make sure you have quite a bit of drinking water. It's usually about a gallon, I guess, per day per person. That is a good rule of thumb. I have the link here on my site. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this report, you can read what's going on. And I do believe something is coming. They are not setting this up. They are not continually letting us know what is happening over and over and over. It just seems like it is a perfect setup for something big happening. And I just want everyone to be prepared. Yes, gold and silver is important at this time, but if you don't have food and water, and I would have some type of weapon. I mean, I have a pistol, I have a shotgun, I have a crossbow system, I have knives, I have all different types. I have a pellet gun. If you're uncomfortable with a real type of weapon, gun, I have a pellet gun, which is also pretty good to have because it looks real, and if you hit them in the right place, it does do some damage. I do not have one with the CO2 cartridge. This is a pump one, and this shoots pellets at 1,200 feet per second, and that is something good to have. And the only reason I say weapons is because we don't know if a grid goes down how people are going to react, and it's always good to protect your family. And I do believe that something will happen, and we just need to be prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening today. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.